Hi everyone, Aiden here with etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install this Curt A20 fifth wheel trailer hitch for the Ram towing prep package on our 2022 Ram 2500. So if your Ram has the factory prep package, this is definitely the way to go. Really any option that slots into those OEM pucks are going to be really great for just ease of use and ease of installation. If you've got it, you might as well use it. Now, with this option from Curt, it is going to be one of my more favorable ones just because I think it's got a really nice set of features. It's going to be easy to use and, in my opinion, easier to get in and out of the truck bed. So if we aren't using this full time, we don't need it in here all the time. That's one of the advantages of the puck system. We can lift this out, put the covers in place, and have full access to the bed of our truck without any above bed rails in place getting in the way. One thing I will point out though with our particular truck today is the bed size. We've got a 6.5 foot bed, which could be right on that border between long enough or not quite long enough depending on the setup. And we've also got a tonneau cover in place. Now this particular tonneau cover is pretty in the way. It does cut back on our space quite a bit. So depending on your setup, I would recommend maybe looking at some of the options for slider bases, or maybe looking into a fifth wheel pin box that is a sidewinder so that you can get some additional turning clearance either from the fifth wheel side of things or from the fifth wheel hitch side of things. Now, if you've got an 8-foot bed, it's probably not something you need to worry about, but if you've got a situation similar to ours today where there are some clearance issues, that's what I would personally recommend, but we just wanted to show you how it would look with the prep package right now. As for the function of the fifth wheel, you're going to have a 20,000 pound gross trailer weight rating. That's going to be how much weight it's rated to pull. And it has a 5,000 pound vertical load limit. That's the downward pressure on the hitch. Keep in mind that's what the hitch is rated for, not necessarily your truck. So go by the lowest rating component in your system. And if that 20,000 pounds isn't enough for you, the Curt A25 is going to pretty much function the exact same way as this, but have a slightly higher weight rating with a 25,000 pound gross trailer weight rating. So depending on what you need, you could look at that as another option. Just keep that in mind if you're liking the way this functions and feels, that you've got those options. For the operation of the fifth wheel, chances are you're going to be opening it from outside the truck bed. So even though it is a bit of a stretch to reach this pin and clip to release the handle, it is reachable from outside the truck bed. When that's out of place, you can pull the handle out towards you and back to open up those spring-loaded jaws. At this point, we'd be backing up to our trailer and it would hook up. I've got a dummy kingpin I can show you how it works though. I'll just have to hop in the truck bed. Now as you back up, the kingpin will slide into the dual jaws and eventually they'll snap closed and be locked into place. We can resecure the handle with a pin and clip. And you can see that it's held in place with a dual jaw design, which means we've got these two pieces of jaw overlapping each other around the kingpin for 360 degrees of contact. Now, one way to know if you have a positive connection is the indicator on the back. This is designed so you can see it from inside the cab of the truck as well. You can see it's green right now, letting us know we're locked into place. But as I open up the jaws, you'll see it change colors, letting us know we're in the ready to couple position. And then as I slide that dummy kingpin back in and it locks in, you'll see it switch over to green. And as I'm working with the fifth wheel here, you've probably noticed that the head has quite a bit of movement, both side to side and a little bit front to back as well. That's because of the built-in torsion system. Basically, we've got these large rubber blocks that are positioned in strategic places around the fifth wheel here to give it some movement. That's the torsion system. That's designed for a couple things. It's really useful when we're hooking up, so if we're not perfectly aligned with the fifth wheel, the head can flex to meet that kingpin a little bit and make hooking up easier. But I think the bigger piece of the pie here is the road shock. It's going to help absorb road shock and make for a smoother towing experience whenever we're going down the road. Being able to flex and move around with the kingpin as you're hitting bumps going down the road. For the general maintenance of your fifth wheel, you've got two Zerk fittings on either side of the jaw to help grease things up and keep them operating smoothly. And then for the overall construction, you've got a finish on the jaws themselves to keep them from rusting, corroding. And then the rest of it has a steel construction with a powder coat finish on top. Now, with powder coat, it really is going to help it resist rust and corrosion, but if that finish scratches away, you're kind of out of luck. The main piece I would worry about though is the top of the head. That's where we're gonna get most of the metal on metal contact. Luckily, your kit does come with a lube plate, which will slide over the kingpin like this and act as a buffer between the fifth wheel pin box and the fifth wheel hitch head. So it's gonna reduce our metal on metal contact and help this last longer over time. And with the hitch, you get height adjustment. That way you can match your truck and trailer combination to get things riding a little bit more level, hopefully. Your range of adjustment is going to be anywhere from 14 to 18 inches in 2-inch increments. So really it's 14, 16, and 18 inches. That's going to be the height from the truck bed to the top of the fifth wheel head right here. For a little bit of reference of what it might look like, we've got it in the lowest position right now and can move it up 2 more stops if we wanted to. Now, as for my overall thoughts on the Curt kit here, I really like it. Curt makes a great product, but one thing I'm not super keen on is the handle design. I think it could be a little bit smoother. The Reese version, which has the same weight capacity and a very similar design, has a much better handle in my opinion. But there's other things about that kit that I don't like as much, like the single jaw design and just the overall construction. For the Curt kit, one of the things I really like is its ability to break down, like lifting the head out from the base and making it easier to get in and out of the truck bed, as well as the handles located on the side of each leg kit. You'll see that in action more as we go through the install process, but for me, that's one of the things that really sets this kit apart. If you're not going to be keeping it in your truck bed all the time and you want to be able to access the full bed, you want this to be easy to get in and out. Any fifth wheel you go with is going to be heavy. What makes it different though is if it's easier to move with dedicated handholds like this one has. So for me, that's a big win. And speaking of that installation process, like we've mentioned before, it just drops into the factory prep package with these points here. We'll cover all that and the assembly in the install portion now. Let's check it out. Now, the first thing you want to do for your installation is get the legs loosely assembled. We've got 3 main pieces: the 2 sides of each leg kit that drop down into the factory puck system, and the cross brace that will join those 2 pieces together. This cross brace has threaded holes on each end, and those are going to actually be utilized with our hardware. Now, this hardware is going to be a long bolt, a lock washer, and a large flat washer that feeds in from the outside of our leg kit on either side, just like that, and threads into that cross brace in the middle. We'll start that by hand for now. Now, once I get to that lock washer and I start to feel resistance, I'm actually going to stop right now. We'll come back through and fully tighten this down with a tool later, but I'm going to leave it somewhat loose so that it's got some room to move as we drop it into the puck system. With all that loosely assembled, if you're comfortable lifting it on your own, you can, or you can grab an extra set of hands, but it's kind of just like a deadlift, so you can bring it up, walk it back, and set it down over top the pucks. Now, we don't have these open yet, so they're not going to drop in. I'm just getting it loosely in place. We can go to the 4 linch pins in each corner, and once those are removed, we can open up the levers to then drop these in. Now, at this point, you want to go back through and just test the tension on these, and if it's too tight, you might need to go back through and loosen up the castle nuts for each one. Depending on the fitment, you might need to tighten or loosen. In our case, loosening is going to be the best bet. Now, to adjust the castle nuts, you'll need to remove the cotter pin that holds them in place. Just some needle nose pliers will do the trick. And test how tight they are. You can see here, there's really no tension on it whenever I throw the lever. Now, that's not to say that you need a ton of tension, but you probably want a little more than that. So what I'll do is, with that pin removed, tighten down the castle nut. And you can see here, as I close it, it's got a little bit of a snap to it. Doesn't need anything crazy, just that will do the trick. And then that'll keep the rattling down whenever it's in the puck system. Secure it in place with the linch pin and reinstall your cotter pin through the castle nut. Before getting the head assembly attached to the legs, I want to get the handle attached to the fifth wheel head itself. It's just going to be easier to do here rather than crouching around in the truck bed. So take the handle, slide it over this piece coming out from the fifth wheel head, and get the spring into there just so it's captive. As it gets a little further in, we should be able to push it inward and sneak one of our screws in so that it's pressed up against the spring, which is right here. It's kind of hard to see with all that being internal, But get that screw with the lock washer in place. And then same thing for the second screw, just pull it back. And if you feel tension, then that means the spring is in the right place. It's wanting to pull itself back. So get that second screw dropped through. Take our plate with the threaded holes. There's going to be a little cutout right here. We want that to be face down with the cut portion towards the back of the fifth wheel head. So that's going to slide into place right here. And I can get these screws backed out a little bit and thread those in by hand. Come back through and tighten them down with an Allen key. Now keep in mind that the Allen key doesn't come with the kit, so you will need a set of your own. This is a 7/16 that we're using today. And once these are fully tightened down, you can always check the plate underneath to make sure that it's sitting properly. And again, you can just give a quick pull test to see, does it spring back into place? And does that plate stay attached to it? If it does, you're all good. Drop your pin and retaining clip back through to lock it in place. And again, with that in place, it shouldn't slide anymore. And then to make things a little easier to move into the bed, we can take out the linch pin and this large center pin from the middle of the fifth wheel and actually take out the head unit to lighten the load a little bit. It might be a little stiff and hard to get out of there, but maybe with an extra set of hands helping hold it down, or just slowly working it out, you can separate the two to make it all lighter. The main body of the unit can get dropped in between the two legs, and we can come back through to secure it with the provided hardware. Depending on the height you're setting this at, it could help to have an extra set of hands to hold it in place for you, but if you can get one of these bolts passed through, going from the outside in to help hold it at the proper height on either side, then it should hold itself in place relatively easily. We can then attach our flat washer, lock washer, and lock nut in place onto those threads by hand, and then come back through with tools and tighten them down, and then torque them to spec. Then you can drop in the head assembly through the top, just like we removed it. Take your large pin, pass it through the back to the front, and then secure that on the front side with our linch pin, and then you're ready to go. And that'll do it for a look at an installation of the Curt A20 fifth wheel trailer hitch for your Ram towing prep package on our 2022 Ram 2500. Thanks for watching.